Hey, it's Gabrielle Celeste. I'm the owner of AGUA Astrology, co-host of the Spiritual Sisters podcast, and welcome to another episode here for my YouTube channel where I capture all of the behind-the-scenes things that are going on within my business and how I have grown it in the past 3 years and how I am moving forward and what I want to do with it. So the intention of this YouTube was really for me to have a video diary, if you will, where I could come back and just reflect on all of the different stages of my business and what it took in that stage and over the years to build it to what it has become and where it's going. And I've done over, at this point, while managing multiple jobs, over 550 readings at time of recording, and that's taken place primarily over the last 3 years. I'm coming up on my business's 3-year birthday. She's a toddler. And I just really wanted to be able to have a place where I could funnel this information that could hopefully be supportive to other spiritual entrepreneurs that are in similar places, maybe in similar line of work, and just to have this as maybe something to think back on in 10 years from now. So who knows? But today what I wanted to talk about is the different ways in which you can open up your chakras, how to open up your chakras, and what I did to have the primary chakras available to me now, and what I've done over the last almost 7 years to do so. So I had my spiritual awakening at the end of 2018, and I've been working as a professional reader for about 3 years. Prior to actually starting full time within my business, or even launching it and making it a public thing, I actually read for free for about a year. And so the number of 500 is definitely going into that number as well. So, but I was thinking back to how I even had my third eye accessible to me, or my crown chakra is open, and all the other primary chakras that I used. And I wanted to capture that in a quick video. So I would say I am primarily clairsentient. I definitely came in that way, and I think that's probably the most natural clair that I have available to me. And actually, let's take it back a little bit. We're going to talk about the different clairs. So there's claircognizance, which is just knowing, and that's having a very open crown chakra. You have your clairaudience, which is clear hearing. So that's being able to hear messages from the divine. You have your clairvoyance, which is the third eye chakra, and that is being able to see other dimensions, other dimensional beings, paths forward, and so forth. And then you have the clairsentience, which is the clear feeling, being able to sense the energy, the temperature of a room, if you will, and so forth. Those are the primary ones that I work with, and there are more, but those are the ones that are most familiar for me and that I'm going to be capturing in this video. And so going back to clairsentience, it's definitely the first one that I had most available to me. I didn't have the language for it for a long time, probably until I got closer to my Saturn return. But my clairsentience I've had since I was a child. And my clairsentience, I would say, the way I would describe it is, say if someone were to get into a fight, they've just had a fight in that room, and you, a bystander, were to walk into the room and just be able to sense the energy and know something's off, that's your clairsentient feelings. So, and it's the clair that is working for you at that point in time to receive those types of messages. So that one I would say is definitely the most available for me. And the way that it shows up for me now as a professional reader is I just have a feeling within my body of a message that I'm receiving based off of something I myself have previously felt. And so that's one way in which I'm deciphering messages if I'm receiving messages from a clairsentient standpoint. The next one I would say is the third eye, which I'll speak to. Everyone's like, how did you get to, a place where you can make predictions? Or I want to be able to do that like you. And I think that one took the most time, because that required quite literally years of doing the inner work, whether that was consistent meditation, which is the fastest way that you're going to open up any of the clairs. Just saying that very directly. And I know it's sometimes challenging. I would say doing the inner work for as long as I've been doing it, and also being able to identify how I receive messages and knowing that I'm getting them visually. So, like, if an image were to pop into my mind, I'm like, oh, that's my third eye working. But that is the one that I think is the most desired. However, it's the most inefficient because oftentimes it is, you have to almost decipher what messages are coming to mind visually, if that's how you even receive messages, because some people aren't meant to have all of them or even work with that specific clair. They're working with the other ones, and those are meant to be fully open. So, and I do think that your astrology chart will actually give you insight as to what that looks like, which ones you're working with, and so forth. So, that is how the third eye chakra came online for me. There is the throat chakra, and I think the gift of voice is actually one that gets upgraded along the way if you're consistent with the work. There's not specific, like, clear, seeing or knowing or feeling or hearing, but the throat chakra definitely is a center point that is almost like a reward. So, something that I say is that your voice inflection, the sound of your voice, as you do the healing, it can land a little bit differently and it changes over the course of time, especially if you are doing so much of the healing work. And I would say I actually don't have an entirely open throat chakra, but having a podcast and also working on YouTube definitely supports the expansion and opening of the throat chakra. But I would say, from a practical standpoint, ways in which you could open your throat chakra include speaking your truth in integrity, and really not holding back, because sometimes if you know that something needs to be said, it's coming from an honest and ethical place, and you don't say it, that energy stays within your body and can manifest down the road depending on the type of energy that's staying in your body. So I feel like that one's important to tap into and to touch on. And then the heart chakra. The heart chakra, I actually think, is also another byproduct of doing all of the work. And what the heart chakra really allows one to do, especially if they're working and doing all the things and doing the inner work and healing and taking accountability for areas where they know they need to improve and do that inner work for themselves, feels like it's a byproduct, but it's also the strongest one for manifestation, for living in alignment, for calling in what you want. And it's the one that's actually, I think, is going to reflect your relationship with the divine. So I would say that the heart chakra, when that one's open and doing the most, you truly are unstoppable. You can get anything that you want, and the divine's going to help you and wants to help you in order to achieve that goal, which goals are just dreams with deadlines. That was my latest post. So check that out on my Instagram at aguaastrology.com, or at Agua Astrology, my website. It's aguaastrology.com. And then the final one is the clairaudience. Clairaudience, clear hearing. I feel like that is actually also compounded. And that one I actually received as a gift over these last set of eclipses. And the way that that one works for me is I get just very clear ringing in my ears. And it's been actually happening nonstop. But I would say that that one is actually one in which came through after, I think, being a reader for as long as I've been reading and working as a professional reader, but also being a spiritual entrepreneur and walking a very spiritual path and walking a shamanic path at that. So I would say that that one, that one comes in as a byproduct. But with clairaudience, that I've noticed is that it's a very subtle, it's almost like it can be whispers depending on who you're receiving messages from. And it's one that also requires consistency and practice as to how you're identifying messages that you're receiving or working with or making sense of those messages, very similar to the third eye. So that is a quick overview of how to open up the chakras, how I did it. And I hope that that was helpful, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.